We also don't allow any gum, candy, or chewing tobacco in there either. Got a sand pit right here. If you could spit that stuff out in, I'd really appreciate it. Take as many pictures as you guys want, though, during the tour. We only ask that you turn off your flash, just in case we encounter any wildlife, especially the bats. That quick flash actually temporarily blinds them, so just trying to keep them from getting hurt. At any point in the tour, though, if anybody becomes really uncomfortable in the cave and you want to leave early for whatever reason, that's totally okay. Just don't walk away from the group, obviously. Let me know. I'll use the phone system that's in there to call another guide and escort you right back to the surface within 5 minutes. Last thing about the cave, guys, before we go in, and the most important rule, please don't touch any of the rocks, the walls, or the formations in there with your bare hands. Just because there's oils and dirt on our hands, that stuff does permanently damage the cave. So, any questions before we head on in, you guys? Alrighty. Alright, follow me into this dark little hole in the wall right here, you guys. You ever been in a cave before, sir?
I was here about 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I feel like I remembered your face.
Yeah,
so,
just I want to do it with a night vision camera because I want to make sure you guys get everything.
Oh, nice. Good idea. Were you on my tour?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll give you my channel name. I don't know if you
Oh yeah, I do remember you telling me a channel. I forgot what it was called though.
It's Aventuras de Chile.
Oh yeah. Alright, perfect. Come on down, my friends. There we go. There's all 8 of you. Alright, you guys. So welcome to the entrance room to our cave. We're just going to be stopping here for a few minutes so our eyes can adjust to the change in light and so I can ask all of you guys a very important question. Do you all like how it smells in here? If you're getting any smell at all, it's okay if you're not. Anybody getting any kind of smell?
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's a little less musty in here than it usually is, to be honest with you. But if you're getting any of that musty smell, if you're not right now, you will. It's going to be coming from all that dark, tarry, sticky-looking stuff on the ceiling up there. Are there any guesses as to what that stuff is, guys? Any guesses at all? Yeah, that's basically a bunch of bat pee and poop kind of mixed together up there. But yeah, that stuff is known as bat guano, though, and it's pretty much on every surface here in the cave, except for the handrails, of course. But it is probably another reason why you might not want to be touching anything in here, right? There's millions of years worth of that stuff all over these walls, but most of our bats, they are down south in Mexico for the winter as part of their migration process, but we should still have a few bats flying around in certain areas of the cave. If you guys do see any bats today, it's probably going to be the species, the cave myotis. That species kind of looks like a bunch of flying chicken nuggets almost. They're kind of adorable. But if you guys do see any bats flying over your head and you want to look up at them, just do it with your mouth closed because they do like to do their business as they fly from time to time. Don't want any unexpected treats, right? But we also get some snakes, scorpions, and spiders that do like to live in this cave from time to time. But we remove all those venomous creatures before the first tour in the morning. So don't worry too much about them. We also get these cute little animals known as coatis or coatimundi, if you've ever heard of them. They're a member of the raccoon family. They kind of look like if you mix a raccoon and a badger together and then put a lemur tail on them. That's what they look like in a nutshell. We used to have a lot more of those little guys, but we started locking up our trashes differently up there, so they're probably down by the hiking trails, harassing hikers for food and stuff like that. I've actually heard a few stories that they have broken into our margarita machines like 2 separate times, and they did get really drunk, so my kind of animal right there. But you might also notice this rock right above all of our heads, right where I'm shining my light. You can see some discoloration on it. Kind of looks like the bat guano I was just talking to you about, but that's actually going to be a bunch of smoke staining and residue from the fires of our very first visitors to this cave, the Hohokam Native Americans. They had their fires right about here, and those guys used this entrance room from the years 900 to about 1450 AD. And they didn't live here, they just used this room for storage and migration purposes. Later on in the tour, I'm going to show you guys some pretty cool artifacts that they left behind. Right now, though, we're going to head down to the Crystal Forest. Just watch your head and your shoulders coming through here. There's some low-hanging formations that may rock your noggin. By the way, if anybody has questions at any point, feel free to just shout it out. No need to raise your hand for any reason. We have a small group. I also like to point out this drop off down here on your guys' right, because we get a lot of field trips to this cave with a bunch of first and second graders normally. Sometimes they start being like really loud and they stop behaving. Guys, we just toss them right down there when that happens. Really helps out a lot. If it works, it works. For legal reasons and for the camera, that was a joke.
You want to be famous, right?
Oh, yeah. We are walking into a pretty cool looking room right now, guys. One of my favorites for sure. I'm going to hold up here a moment, wait for a few folks to catch up. Amazing. So guys, before we go further into this really cool looking room, I do want to make you all aware of this cool formation you're all going to meet at the top of these stairs. This formation's name is Old Baldy, and this is what it looks like when one of these formations gets touched by humans millions of times. You can see all the dust and the pollen that's all over these formations. All of that serves as a protective layer for them. So when we touch the formations, it all gets rubbed off, and you see that smooth calcite crystal that's under it all, that it's all made out of. When the formations look like this, it basically means that they cannot grow again if water were to return to this cave, which is, of course, why we tell everybody not to touch anything in here. But yeah, guys, you can actually give Old Baldy a pat on the head for good luck as you pass by him. We use him as the get it out of your system thing on the tour, so do it if you're interested, guys. I will warn you, though, Old Baldy has germs on him dating back to the 1800s. We've never cleaned him before, but yeah, you can always wash your hands, right? All right, 2 more, right?
2 more, and you might have another group that's coming in, but if they don't show up, then you can hear it.
All right, sounds good, Everett. Thank you. All right, good to have you guys on the tour. My name's Emilio, by the way. All right, follow me over here, my friends. All right. If you guys need a handrail coming down, got one on the left and Old Baldy's cousin on the right if you wanted to use him. If you guys can make your way down to that landing for me, that'd be perfect. My friends, need a handrail, again, got one on the left, and Old Baldy's cousin on the right if you wanted to use him.
I will.
Let's go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. My friend. So right now we are walking into the Crystal Forest. Obviously, it gets its name from all the cool formations that are hanging from the ceiling and coming up from the ground like Old Baldy over there. But does anybody happen to know what the formations that are hanging from the ceiling are called? Anybody know that? They're called stalactites, actually. And a good way to remember that is that stalactites will always hang tight to the ceiling, whereas the formations that come up from the ground, those are called stalagmites. We like to say that stalagmites might trip you if you're not looking out for them, right? But the most important thing that I want you all to remember about all these formations is that they are all formed from a mineral called calcium carbonate. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but back at your houses, if you don't clean off your faucets for a while, they start to get that white residue and buildup around them. That stuff is the same exact mineral that all of the formations in this cave consist of. So if you think about it, if you let that stuff grow in your bathroom for like 300 years, you would have yourself a pretty cool crystal there waiting for you. But you're also going to notice that a lot of the formations in this cave, like these guys up here, they have flat ends, which is actually not natural. That's what we call cave vandalism. And that was all done in the late 1800s by a guy with kind of a cool name, honestly. It was Solomon Lick. Unfortunately, though, he was not the coolest guy. He owned a hotel about 2 miles in that direction, and one day he was searching for some lost cattle in this area. He stumbled across the cave, and he basically rediscovered it since those Hohokam Native Americans. But Solomon decided that even though he did not own this cave, he was going to use it to kind of promote his hotel. So for many years, Solomon would bring people through here and tell them to take whatever they wanted as souvenirs. People would come in here with lassos, and they would pull the formations down. In some instances, they would come in here with guns, and they would actually shoot them down, which is super smart to do in a cave. Super smart. I'm going to come down here, introduce you all to another buddy of mine. Right up here, I should say. Check this guy out. This guy's name is Fang, and as far as we know, Fang is the largest stalactite in our entire cave system. He probably weighs somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. So it's kind of like having a Ford F-150 pickup truck just hanging over your head, or a 4-year-old elephant. But he gets his name because he kind of looks like a molar and a fang, obviously, but mostly because if you're over 5'7" and you're not looking out for him, Fang is going to take a good bite right out of your head. Yeah, he will actually make a cool noise when people do run into him. Check it out. Yeah, so if I hear that noise, I know he got one, you guys. So careful coming through here from experience. It hurts quite a bit. Makes a cool noise as well, that guy. But follow me down this way, my friends. There's a stairwell right here at the start of it. We're missing a few handrails, so if you need to, you can balance yourself on some of these rocks. Also been touched a million of times. Handrail starts on your right, though. You guys could all form a little bit of a U shape as you come in here. Like that, that'd be perfect. Welcome in, my friends. Got a nice open, spacey room for you all in here. It's where we hold the cave raves. I wish. Alright, perfect. Looks like we still have everybody so far, but yeah, guys, welcome to probably the largest room we're going to be standing in today. This room is called the drapery room. It gets its name from this cool formation hanging right above all of our heads up here. Check it out. Kind of looks like curtains or drapes almost, right? It's pretty straightforward. They're just called cave curtains. But the cave curtains that are in singular form, like this guy right over here, this would actually be known as cave bacon, which is the scientific term for it. Geologists are very hungry people. They do name a lot of different things off of food. You guys will see cave popcorn here in a little bit, but we also have like a very, very rare mineral in this room that I really want to show you guys as well. Check it out. Right up here we have what's called fiberglass. I'm just kidding, it's fake. An actual formation I want to show you guys. Right over here we have a stalagmite and a stalactite. That stalag meets in the middle, as I like to say. When that happens, it's called a column. This is a process that can take upwards of 100,000 years to form. Kind of crazy to think about to me, but it actually takes all the stalactites and stalagmites about 100 years for them to form half a cubic inch. So when you look at them, you can kind of guess how long it took for them to form, which is super cool to me. But in that last room, I talked to you all a bit about the guy who destroyed a lot of parts to this cave, but in this room, I want to talk to you about the guy who really made an effort to save this cave. His name was Frank Schmidt. He was originally from Germany, but he came over here. He went on one of those Solomon Lick tours. He saw all that cave vandalism going on, got so mad about it, he saved up his money for 4 years. And then he bought the mining rights to the cave in the year 1920 for like $10,000. And the first thing that Frank does with his new cave is he makes it so that nobody can come in here without a tour guide. For a while, Frank was actually the only tour guide working here up until the age of 84 years old. He died when he was 85, unfortunately, but that just means he pretty much dedicated almost his entire life to this cave, which is pretty remarkable in my opinion. But Back in the day, though, for 25 cents, Frank would give you a candle and a rope, and you would just explore this place with him all day. There were never any time limits on his tour. So imagine if all of you guys were on this tour for 8 hours or something like that. Wouldn't that be awful? And say you wanted to leave the tour before Frank wanted to, he would just look at you and say something like, I'm going to keep exploring, go back the way you came, hope you don't get lost. Yeah, customer service was not as much of a priority back in those days, but you might have also noticed that the floors that we've all been walking on, they might not seem too natural to you. You'd be right to think that Frank had a group called the CCC come in and build them. I'm just curious, does anybody happen to know what the CCC stands for, or do you want to guess? It's not cave, 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 I promise. Yeah, it stands for the Civilian Conservation Corps. They were all a group of 18 to 24-year-olds who did a bunch of work around state and national parks in the 1930s. 400 of those guys. They came down here, built all these walkways, stairs, and handrails for us. Took them like 3 to 4 years to do it. Before them, right where we're standing, was a 30-foot drop, which I like to think about. But last thing about this room, guys, before we continue, is that this room is pretty important for one specific reason. Let's say you guys were all to get lost on the tour today. Oh no, right? You're walking through a strange cave, don't know where you're going. You're probably going to get a little bit disoriented. You're also probably going to end up in this room eventually. And that's because there are 5 different entrances to this room alone. Yeah, number 1, the stairwell we all just came from, pretty obvious. And then number 2 is right over there. There's a super small, dark, like claustrophobic hole right over there. You don't want to go that way. It's actually part of our wild cave tour that we do here. It's where they exit the tour, actually. But number 3 is right behind you guys over here, off to that area on my right. If you went through there, you just end up looping right back around to the area on the left. So not going to be very useful to you. And then number 4 is behind you guys over there down that stairwell, which we're going to be exploring in a few minutes here. And number 5, excuse me real quick, the super dark, ominous looking area with a gurney, an oxygen tank, and a first aid kit over there. But I do have a question for you guys. Which one of these entrances would you choose if you were trying to find your way out of this cave? Not a trick question. Exactly, the way we came, right? The most obvious one. That way is actually so obvious, though we do consider it cheating. Only because, again, you would be a little bit disoriented, a little turnaround if you got lost in here. So in that scenario, you would have to find our cave witch in this room, and she's going to point you in the right direction out of this cave. I'll give you guys a hint. The cave witch is going to be on this side of the room if you want to try and spot her. Come in close, guys. You'll see her much better from up here, but point her out to me if you do spot the cave witch. I'll give you a moment here. See anything witchy, guys? Not quite? Yep. Great job over there. I'll point out some of her defining features to you guys. We got her long, scraggly hair right there, and then her eye, her little wart, her long pointy nose pointing you in the right direction out of the cave. Also, her little snaggletooth right there as well, which does tend to happen if you're always eating a limestone cookie. Check it out. Also, does anybody happen to know what a witch's favorite animal is? Also, not a trick question. Anybody know? Maybe a cat, perhaps? A black cat, exactly. We do have Shadow the cat right here to keep our cave witch company. Pretty adorable rock right there. One of my favorites in the cave. But we also have, has anybody ever heard of this blind old man from the comics named Mr. Magoo? Fair enough. I never heard about him either before I worked here. But we do have our own little Mr. Magoo, which is still kind of a cool formation to see. You can see his blind little eye right there. Forehead, big nose, lips, and his cup of tea right there. Still kind of a sick formation. But we also have a few celebrities in here that you're all going to probably recognize. Right over here, guys, check it out. We got SpongeBob and Patrick just watching us over there. Pretty amazing. If you have a good imagination, you might even see Plankton right there in the middle. So sick, so sick. Does anybody have any questions about the cave or anything before we continue? All good to go? Perfect. All right, real quick, though, to give you all a picture about how big this cave really is, we know of 39.5 miles of this cave, but we've never mapped out the entire thing. I don't even think we've come close to mapping it all out. I do think it's pretty cool. We have that mystery of how colossal the cave is, right? But follow me down here, guys, show you some more cool stuff. I might come in a little bit past me, like right there would be perfect. I want to show you all this cool crystal right up here. I know, pretty cool crystal right up here, you guys. Looks so cool under a flashlight, but under a UV light, it'll look even cooler. It'll glow like pinkish red, actually. I'll show you what I mean. Check that out. Yeah, kind of crazy looking. It's called optical calcite. It glows like that because there's an element inside of the crystal called manganese, which is a form of alpha radiation, actually. But don't worry, that radiation can only travel about 1 foot out from the crystal, and it can only harm you if you were to ingest it. So I know it's super tempting, looks like rock candy, but please don't eat that crystal as you pass by, guys. People have actually tried. But yeah, if you don't mind coming a little bit this way so I can show those people in the back.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Check it out. Optical calcite right up here, my friends. Kind of crazy looking. Looks like that under a flashlight, under a UV light. Those fingers red. Kind of crazy looking, right? Thank you guys so much. Got to make sure there's no big cats up ahead. All right, you guys go. Sorry. Thank you. All right, follow me right down this way, my friends. Thank you, guys. For my folks in the back over there, can you all still hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful, thanks guys. So did you all just happen to see that clock looking thing before we came down the stairwell?
Yes.
Amazing. It's not a clock though. That's called a barometer. That's what the CCC used to measure the temperature and the humidity down here, which you guys might have noticed might be a lot warmer than you think a cave would be. Most caves are 50 to 55 degrees normally, but this cave is 71 degrees year-round. So it's almost like being in a Target. That's because it absorbs that desert heat a bit, and we're not as deep as other caves tend to be. But during the monsoon seasons that we get here, it can get over 100% humidity down here. So it can get super uncomfortable, you can imagine. But guys, further up here on the right, you're also going to come across what's called the bottomless pit. A few weeks ago, we had a lady lean in there with a brand new iPhone, trying to get a good picture. Dropped it right down the bottomless pit, of course. Can anybody guess where that iPhone is right now?
In the bottom of the pit.
Pretty good guesses all around. At the bottom of the bottomless pit, right? So it's not actually bottomless. Does go down like 60 feet, though, so still super deep. If anybody wants, we can hang you down by your ankles to see if you can spot that iPhone. Just let me know.
No, thank you.
Fair enough. Yeah, no takers on that.
It's just an iPhone.
I'm sure there's some other treasures down there. I heard of a dude who dropped his passport down there one time before. Don't know how that happened. Cave to it.
Should I show his password again?
I guess. I don't know what he's trying to do. Guys, further up here on the left, you're also going to see those cool Hohokam artifacts I told you about in the entrance room. I think they're pretty cool to look at because they're over 1,000 years old, and it shows some of the tools that they would use to grind herbs and make food, that kind of a thing. Unfortunately, though, a lot more of their artifacts were stolen during those Solomon Lick tours. He ended up displaying some of them in his hotel, and that hotel ended up burning down, actually. We call that cave karma. Won't be the last example of that I'll tell you about. If you guys are curious, that right there is a fake stalagmite. Our maintenance crew built that to try to hide some of the wiring right there, but as you can see, it does not hide the wiring at all. I just think that's a great use of our resources here. I don't know. Guys, up here on the left, there's a little bit of a narrow hallway coming up. Make sure to watch your shoulders as we come through it. So there are some cool crystals embedded in this wall. On the left, you can see it better under a flashlight. See how it sparkles like that? And we got mica, hematite, and calcite crystal in this hallway. If you guys want to see these crystals better in the wall on the left up here, feel free to use the flashlight on your phones. It's just a quick flash on the camera is what we don't want. Yeah. Who doesn't like a bedazzled looking wall? Once you're noggin, you guys can do this little arch. You were here when you were a kid? How did it change much, right? Step through while I talk to you guys. Pretty sure we can put everybody in front of this handrail. Should be pretty easy. While we wait for the rest of the crew here, let's see if you guys can spot our Abraham Lincoln formation we have in this room. Instantly spotted him. Have you been here before? That's crazy.
No.
That's an amazing eye right there.
Too.
Yep, we got his bushy little beard right there, his lips, his nose, and his head, his hair, or his top hat, whichever you want to see. Old Abe Links is in the room, guys. He's right up there if you wanted to see him in the back. Yeah, guys. Right now, we are standing in the movies and popcorn room. Gets that name partly because over 20 different movies have been filmed down in this cave before. But just to cover the popcorn bit of that real quick, you guys can see that cave popcorn I told you about earlier on this wall right here, as well as that wall right behind you guys over there. There's a lot of stuff on these walls that kind of look like popcorn. That's there because of the water that formed this cave, actually. It had a lot of sulfuric and carbonic acid in it, which is a very acidic, bubbly solution of water. So back when this whole room was underwater, a lot of those bubbles would get trapped to these walls, and some of them would crystallize over time, which is what you're seeing with the cave popcorn. Kind of cool. But again, over 20 different movies have been filmed down here, a lot of them being from National Geographic and Discovery Channel, things like that. But also, a lot of low-budget horror movies were filmed down here as well. Has anybody ever heard of a movie called Night of the Lepus? No? Yeah, probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen, honestly. It's one of those movies that's like so bad it's good. It's about a bunch of genetically modified giant killer bunny rabbits, actually. Super interesting stuff, I know. They just got a bunch of regular-sized bunny rabbits. They threw some red paint on their faces. Then they built like a tiny little mock town, and they hid some bunny treats throughout it. They just had the rabbits go and absolutely demolish the town, and they filmed it for the most part. If you're interested, last I checked, that whole movie is free on YouTube, so there you go. But also, Sesame Street came down here as well, and they filmed something. Was not really a movie, though. It was for one of those devices that you would put up to your eyes and click through some slides. Yeah, called a Viewmaster, if you guys know what that is. A little throwback for you, but it was called Sesame Goes Western. It was about Big Bird and Cookie Monster. They came down here. They were looking for the lost bird seed and the hidden cookie treasure. Pretty important stuff. But Big Bird came walking kind of right where you guys are over there, actually, and then he came across our cave T-Rex right here. Check this guy out. Yep, you can see his eye, his nose goes down like that, and his absolutely gorgeous smile right there. But as we know, Big Bird is a big chicken, right? So when he saw the cave T-Rex, he got so spooked by him, Big Bird actually turned around and he hightailed it straight through that wall right behind you guys over there. Yep, little Big Bird outline in that wall. That's the punchline to the joke. Pretty amazing, I know. I promise you guys, we did not carve a Big Bird outline in that wall. That's a natural formation known as a keyhole formation. But another cool thing about that wall behind you guys over there is that under a UV light, you're all going to see that a lot of this cave can actually glow quite a bit. Check that out. You guys see that bluish, purplish looking glow? Yeah, that's what we call human dust. Might sound a little bit weird, but if you guys all look at my shirt, I'll show you what it is. You guys see all that lint that gets trapped to our clothes? Yeah, when we come in here, all that stuff gets absorbed into the airways of the cave, and it sticks to the walls everywhere. So once a year, we have to have a dude come down here with a vacuum rig to try to vacuum all that stuff up everywhere in the cave. Kind of crazy. But as you guys come through this little walkway, you're all probably going to look up there and see the altar room. I can't take you guys up there, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would. But can anybody guess what the altar room's used for, just based off of that name? The altar room. What's that used for?
Like rituals.
Rituals, a specific ritual for sure. It's actually used for weddings, believe it or not. We do hold weddings up there every now and then. It's not too common though, because white dresses are obviously not going to stay white up there. But one of our last weddings that we did get, little fun fact for you guys, the groom, he dressed up like a bat for his wedding. And his bride was just in a normal white dress, which kind of makes it even more weird if you ask me. But yeah, I'm sure they're still together, right?